Before we dive into this series to show you how to use the Bottle framework and Python to create web apps, I think it's important to talk about my bias as I'm going to be teaching you this series. It is important for you to understand whenever you're going out to learn technology to understand what the bias of your instructor is so that you really understand what the takeaways are supposed to be. If you are going to a college class, is the bias, is the goal of the instructor to teach you how to build projects, or is it getting you to be able to pass tests? Now, there's no right or wrong answer there, but those are two entirely different things. Again, when you go and you're going to be learning a particular technology, are you learning that technology in order to get a certificate, or are you learning that technology in order to do something? Now, one of the big things with Silicon Dojo is that I believe in teaching students to be able to build useful, or at least seemingly useful projects as fast as possible. One of the biggest problems when people start learning technology is not that they fail, rather it's they give up. Right? The instructor tosses so many concepts at them, tries to teach so many things at once that frankly the student just cannot keep up with the information. They go, oh, I'm stupid, I'm not smart enough to be a technology professional, and then they go off and do something else. I actually think most of the time that is a failure of the instructor. The instructor, instead of trying to make everything bite-sized, understandable concepts, throws everything at the student, and then the student thinks that they are the dummy. Again, I am on the other side of that. I believe that the instructor should try to divide everything down into those manageable parts, teach all of those manageable parts so that the student can put those Lego blocks of education together and they will be able to do something going into the future. That is very important when we start looking at the Bottle framework. So when we talk about creating web apps, if you've been through the Introduction to Python series, you will know that there are a number of frameworks that allow you to create web apps. There's Django, there's Flask, there's Fast API, there's probably dozens of them out there that can frankly build better web apps than Bottle can. The thing is, they can get a little bit complicated, right? Again, Django, I actually love Django. It is a great framework for creating web apps, but it comes, everything including the kitchen sink when you install that framework onto your system. It has a user account system, it has routing systems, it has a database engine, something called ORM that goes along with it. It has so much stuff. So the issue is, right, if I'm trying to teach a new person how to create web apps with Python, literally getting you to the place where you can deliver an index page, when you can deliver a home page, is going to probably take a couple of hours of education, right? There's just so much, there's this URL path thing and all this stuff that goes into it, right? And so the issue is again, students get very confused when you have all of this stuff. The great thing about a Bottle is basically you can write a very small script within VS Code, you can hit the run button and you have your web app up and running, right? You can receive what are called post requests, where data is sent to your web app. You can pull information from REST APIs. You can communicate with the operating system. You can do all of this great stuff. When you want to run it, you just run the script, you get your nice little web app, you play around, it works great, and you get to keep learning. So the great thing about Bottle is that it is so simple. It does not come with all these additional features, but is incredibly easy to learn, and so that is why we're teaching you Bottle here. Now, to show you how simple Bottle is this is a script we'll be dealing with in a session in the future, basically sending get values to an HTML page using the Bottle framework. But just to show you, right, this is all of 24 lines of code. And the important thing down here is this run function, and basically you actually run this app from this particular script. So I can go up and I can click on the run button here in VS Code. When I do that, I will get this little link down here to localhost at 8080. I can do command, I can click this, and I get a very simple web app, right? This says web app up here, and then we get these links for red, green, and yellow. I can click on red, and it turns the background red, green, and yellow. The great thing about this, though, is that was all able to be done from this really simple script. You do not need anything else in order to run this, and this is why I like Bottle as far as teaching, especially new students. And finally, before you get a little frustrated, you're like, Eli, I don't want to spend all this time to learn a product that I'm not actually going to use in the real world, right? Because that's one of the issues that you run into too when you learn technology. Some instructors give you kind of like these toy technologies to learn. You spend a whole bunch of time learning it, but then nobody actually uses it. The great thing about Bottle is that you can use this in the real world, not just for your own projects, but for projects that you're going to deploy. This is a real web app framework that you can use for your projects. The other valuable thing about it is that with web app frameworks in the Python world, they all kind of sort of work the same way. Again, when we talk about things like routes, they're all going to be using routing. When we talk about things like templates, and we'll talk about that later, they all use templates and something called a template language, yet another language that you get to learn. Static files, they all use static files, right? There's a lot of these basic concepts that all of the web app frameworks will use. So again, even in the future, if you do decide to learn Django, if you understand templates and you understand templating language and you understand static files and you understand routing, going in and learning Django is just going to be a hell of a lot easier. And if you're interested in Django, we will be doing that class in the future. But right now, we're going to be diving into this Bottle framework for creating web apps with Python.